ये टाइग्रिस थोड़ा हो गया है, हैबिट हो गया है उसको गाड़ी देख के। तो बाकी जो टाइग्रिस है वो ज्यादा भागता है, नहीं तो छुप जाता है, ऐसा होता है। लेकिन ये दाफोली जो मैंने नाम दिया है वो थोड़ा सिमिलर नहीं है।
ये मेल है,
फीमेल है,
फीमेल
फीमेल है, इसीलिए दाफोली।
ब्यूटीफुल मैन। ये दोनों जो ट्रीज है उसके ये सब निकलता है।
हाँ, ये दोनों के ट्री के बीच में से ऐसे निकल के क्रॉस कहते हैं।
While I could still feel the ripping sensation in my bone, visiting a forest is not just about adrenaline rush, and visiting Kaziranga was certainly not. It was an embodiment of my life experience of a shared world. For those who could truly experience a forest ever, you know that after a point, your sense of spatial sensitivity, bodily awareness, and sense of self get lost, as we are no longer operating in a controlled environment. And how can any control work in a place where there is charismatic big five, namely great Indian one-horned rhinoceros, Asiatic wild buffalo, Indian swamp deer, Indian elephant, and of course, Royal Bengal tiger. Not only that, this is one of the few wild breeding areas in the world for multiple large cat species. Oh yes, even big five cat species prowl across in Kaziranga's 884 square kilometer jungle, namely Bengal tiger, leopard, jungle cat, fishing cat, and leopard cat. Even though the official duration of the jeep safari is for 2 hours, I guess it varies according to the season, and we could spend 4 hours inside for our morning safari. And in my first jeep safari, I was lucky enough to spot 19 species of birds, 3 species of large mammals, including multiple sighting of greater one-horned rhino, and 1 species of reptile. With 20 years worth of jeep safari experience in several Indian forests, little bit of knowledge of ethology, but most importantly, with great affinity and curiosity towards wildlife and nature, I'm making this Kaziranga Chronicles series, which will not only provide you with some hitherto unknown information about this terrain and its wildlife, but also will maximize your opportunity to spot your wildlife of preference. But for me, it's not just about the count of native fauna. My first safari resulted in one of the chilliest years in wild that I have ever experienced in forest. And I also got exposed with the ultimate reality of a forest true raw allure. This is where former England cricketer Kevin Pietersen came in 2020 to shoot a short documentary as part of his initiative named Sorai, Save Our Rhinos in Africa and India. This is where David Attenborough's team came to film for Planet Earth 2. William and Catherine, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, also visited here in 2016. And even though they visited CWRC to witness rhino rehabilitation from close quarters with special arrangement, and also undertook a royal safari inside the park, none of them have spotted a Royal Bengal tiger. Because you know what? There's only one royalty inside a jungle. And this jungle is someone else's kingdom who doesn't care to obey any sanctimonious order of civilization. Known as the child of the mighty Brahmaputra, the biosphere of Kaziranga Reserve is one of the most wonderful ecosystems in the world. The rivers and their tributaries flowing across the national park result in large reserve forests and the tall elephant grass that harbor home to an incredible variety of insects, arachnids, reptiles, birds, amphibians, and mammals. Formed in 1905 on the recommendation of Mary Curzon, the park is located in the edge of the eastern Himalayan biodiversity hotspots, Golaghat and Nagaon district. Located in the floodplain of the Brahmaputra River, Kaziranga's lush terai duar savannas in the Indo-Gangetic Plain are one of the last remaining grasslands of India. The park's topography of wetlands, grasslands, and woodlands constitutes such a unique composition that it was inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1985. The park headquarters are at Bokakhat on the National Highway 715. Bokakhat to Kohora Central Range will take you almost 40 minutes to reach, and that's a stretch for an early morning safari. So usually it's advisable to stay close to either Kohora Gate or near Bagori Forest Range in Western Zone, which is around 11 km distance from the Kohora bus stand. I plan my wildlife stay close to the zone where I intend to visit the most number of times, and so it took me 10 minutes to reach in front of the Central Zone Safari Gate at Kohora around 7:15 am for a 7:30 am safari. In this timid time of professional correctitude and capitalistic mindset, it was amusing to see that the shopkeeper was more keen in scanning through a binocular than selling. I bet this happens only in India. What she was looking at, by the way? For sure you will get such souvenirs and figurines at a cheaper rate elsewhere. But it's important to note that November to April registers the maximum footfall, the coveted time to visit this park. From June to September, Kaziranga remains completely closed for the visitors due to the monsoon, and hence business totally halts, particularly for shops at the entrance of National Park. And during heavy rainfall, at times the park closes as early as 1st May due to the flooding of Brahmaputra. Elephant back excursion involving elephant back rides into the thick jungle with a mahout are offered in national parks like Kanha, Bandhavgarh, and in Kaziranga too. I'm totally against this, and so I only opted for jeep safaris here. I will explain the reason in a short while. In the true nature of things, if we deeply consider, there's no best time for spotting wildlife, as it's always a privilege these days with ever shrinking natural resources. But national parks follow a schedule for the right reason, and safaris in all zones can only be enjoyed during that window. I'm sure by this time you are conversant with how to reach here easily if you are traveling from outside of Northeast India. But if you stay close, then train journey is a good choice if you are okay with limited options on specific days. Because just to give an idea, if you book domestic air ticket well in advance, then the flight fare to reach Guwahati from most places in India can be somewhat comparable with the cab charges from Guwahati or Dibrugarh to Kaziranga, which cost me 8,500 rupees. Flight in economy class from Bangalore to Dibrugarh only cost me 3,000 rupees more. I ended up doing 6 wildlife safaris here, and every corresponding episode will divulge more and different aspects of this forest and its wildlife. The kind of information that I'm making available for you are not readily accessible anywhere, and you may otherwise end up spending hefty sum of money for an organized wildlife trip to even remotely match this experience. For those with a fair bit of understanding about Indian wildlife scene, you know that how difficult it is to spot an animal in the wild, especially rare species and large mammals. A stroke of luck with minimal effort and preparation at times work, but in order to maximize your opportunity to spot your wildlife of preference while protecting the sanctity of the place and to enjoy the wilderness to its fullest, you need to be in the know. For example, 9 out of 14 primate species that are found in India are found here, including the golden langur and the only ape that is found in India, that is hulak gibbon. Now, if you don't know which zone opens up the possibility of sighting of your species of preference, it will be very tricky and difficult, right? But if you go for an online zip safari booking, you have already chosen your zone, and the safari guide will be randomly allocated from the available pool of resources just before the jeep safari timing at the entrance gate. I don't recommend that entire process. I would suggest that you do your own research and choose your guide first. That's what I have done. And accordingly, I've chosen my stay based on where the guide is connected. And because a guide can make a whole lot of difference to your experience because they have the knowledge of the local corridor movement and understanding, especially if you are planning to, spot tigers. If you're interested, I have provided information about my guide further down the line. Trust me, if you even have a completely dry experience in terms of sighting, a proficient and engaged guide can make a whole lot of difference to your experience. And I have spoken with him a night before the safari, and we have chalked out our entire plan. And that also helped the guide to understand your level of engagement and your interest areas. Let's now enter the place where only calculation that works is head count. It's game time.
मानिक जी, आप मुझे एक बात बोलिए, काजीरंगा बोलते ही लोग बोल सुन सकता है कि इट्स वन हॉर्न राइनो।
ना राइनो है यार, राइनो अभी तो ये तो जो वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी जो है टाइगर है ना,
हाँ।
टाइगर को भी फेमस है ये काजीरंगा।
टाइगर बोलते हैं कि ग्रासलैंड बहुत हाई है, काजीरंगा में टाइगर देखना बहुत मुश्किल होता है।
टाइगर देखना मुश्किल होता है, कभी रोड में मिलते हैं। 1 पॉइंट की टाइगर है, 2613 राइनो है।
अच्छा,
एलिफेंट है 1975, सोमडियर है आपको 1050।
Elephant safari starts here way earlier than jeep safari, and so those who opted for it were already inside when first few jeeps started entering. The terrain in central zone is often rocky and rough, so even with slow motion videos, it was difficult to control the movement of my handheld cameras when the jeep was moving fast. Forest Department offers one of their armed guards from the gate, and so Mr. Manik was accompanying us while my real guide was Mr. Pallab, who was driving the jeep and had a decade-long experience in this forest. But government has granted an extraordinary power to Mr. Manik. I will discuss about that in future episodes. Right now, I was interested to know about
ये मोनोकोल कोबरा को देखना जो है पार्क के अंदर मुश्किल ही है। समर में बहुत ज्यादा मिलते हैं, वो गांव में घर में ही आ जाते हैं।
सवाल मतलब ये रास्ते में आ जाते हैं।
हाँ, घर में ही किसी के घर में घुस जाता है,
इसको मामा जो है ना
हाँ,
वो
हाँ।
रेस्क्यू करता है,
अच्छा अच्छा
सांप वगैरह
हाँ हाँ हाँ
वो रेस्क्यू करते हैं।
अच्छा हार्पेटोलॉजिस्ट है आपके मामा
हम्म।
अच्छा अच्छा
ये हॉक डियर, वो कर रहे हैं,
क्या
हॉक डियर।
And thus I come across my first wildlife sighting in Kaziranga, an endangered species in the IUCN Red List, who is protected under Schedule 1 of the Indian Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. It is a very primitive cervid, reported to have been present since the Pliocene and Pleistocene era, that is, millions of years ago, when forests were interspersed with open areas across Europe and Asia. At the beginning of the 20th century, hog deer was widely distributed throughout the Southeast Asian countries, but now they are threatened by habitat alteration, fragmentation, and poaching, resulting in population decline and extinction from 35 localities in Southeast Asia. But the population of hog deer in Kaziranga National Park remains stable so far. Investigation of the genetic pattern across the distribution range of this little studied species will allow insights into its evolutionary relationships and enable better conservation planning. As a lesser adjutant stork was peeping behind the herd of hog, I remembered reading about that one rare albino member of the species who was spotted here in 2021 and piqued global attention. Looking comfortable in the company of his regular counterpart, the albino hog deer was spotted right here in Kohora region.
वाला हो गया जो बच्चा होता है उसमें थोड़ा आपको स्पॉट्स दिखता है
अच्छा
ठीक है तो इसी से आपको पता चलता है कि ये क्लोजली रिलेटेड है जो स्पॉटेड डियर्स आप लोग सेंट्रल इंडिया में मिलते हैं
जी
तो उनका रिलेटिव ही है ये लेकिन इसका मान लीजिए कि हैबिटेट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन अलग है इसीलिए इनका स्पॉट्स बयो में नहीं होता है लेकिन जीन थोड़ा मिलता जुलता है
ये एक बच्चा है देखिए एक्सपोर्टेड है
हाँ।
बच्चे जैसा
जी वो स्पॉटेड डियर नहीं है
हाँ वो तो हॉक का ही बच्चा है
कहीं बच्चा है
मैंने इतना मतलब नजदीक से हॉक डियर नहीं देखा इससे पहले
जी यहाँ पे
पीछे एक मेल भी आ रहा है बच्चे के पीछे,
मेल के डिफरेंट ओ अच्छा एंटलर्स होता है ना उसका
फीमेल का नहीं।
वो दूर में भी एक मेल है लुक
Although the etymology of the name Kaziranga is not certain, one interpretation is it gets its name from the Karbi language spoken by the Karbi people of northeastern India, where Kazi means goat or deer and Rangai means red, culminating in the land of the red goats or deer. And the animal is so called due to its habit of holding its head low in a hog-like manner when running through vegetation. Even though they form small family units, hog deer are solitary animals and males are highly territorial. They are accomplished swimmers too. Increased activity is noticed during dawn and dusk, and where excessive hunting happens, they are forced to lead a nocturnal life. I wondered why the grass was looking charred though. I got the answer later and will explain in future. Green to the point of blackness, the sky composed a leaf-filtered orange and fuchsia bonfire as we proceeded inside. Other than the sound of jeeps, occasional rustle in the bushes, and chirping of birds, the place was supremely quiet. We don't understand how much our senses are tortured till we get into a place where eardrums let you know that they finally got some relaxation after a long while. By the way, I augmented the sound of our conversation to a great extent for you. We were actually speaking in a very low voice, as it should be inside a forest. The soothing presence of an Eurasian collared dove mirrored the mood of calm. A dove appears as a message carrier in the Old Testament story of Noah when he sent out the bird from the ark to see if the floodwaters had receded. Wonder whether that's the purpose this bird here served during Brahmaputra flooding. A symbol of Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, and of Venus, her Roman counterpart. This monogamous bird belongs to one of the few species that can keep their heads down while drinking, with submerged bills sucking water as though drinking through a straw. Most birds must scoop water and tip the head back to let it run down into the throat.
देखिए आपको वाटर लेवल लिखा हुआ है बारिश में कितना हो गया
वो फ्लड लेवल। अच्छा, तो ये राइडिंग पॉइंट मतलब
एलिफेंट राइडिंग पे।
अच्छा अच्छा, एक बात बोलिए, ये जंगल के अंदर भी वाइल्ड एलिफेंट है, ये एलिफेंट राइड ये करके जाता है, ये तो एलिफेंट के अब्यूज है ना, उसके एनिमल अब्यूज है ना, मतलब उसको टेम करके तो
मैं समझाता हूँ मैडम।
हाँ
जो एलिफेंट्स पहले पकड़ा गया था,
हाँ जी,
जैसे राजा महाराजा के दिनों से ये प्रथा चला आ रहा था कि एलिफेंट्स को पकड़ा जाता था, ठीक है। तो वैसे ही जब 1972 के बाद तो ये बैन हो गया, तो उसके पहले ही जो एलिफेंट्स को पकड़ा था उसी को ब्रीडिंग करके ये लोग एलिफेंट राइड में यूज करते हैं। और इसका प्रधान काम ऐसा नहीं है कि एलिफेंट राइड ही है, ये पेट्रोलिंग के लिए लेके जाते हैं। और मान लीजिए जो हाथी अभी भी किसी ओनर्स के पास है, वो तो एलिफेंट को क्या क्या काम में लगाएगा, लॉगिंग के काम में लगाएगा और हर्ड काम में लगाएगा। तो इसीलिए उन लोगों का एलिफेंट अभी यहाँ पे पार्क में सफारी का काम करते हैं, और सिर्फ मॉर्निंग में ही करता है, 2 राइड करता है, उसके बाद एलिफेंट्स को छोड़ दिया जाता है ताकि वो आराम कर सके, रेस्ट मिले उनको। तो यही है, अगर वो भी बंद हो जाएगा तो एलिफेंट्स को बहुत मतलब हार्ड वर्क मिलेगा, बहुत टाइट वर्क मिलेगा। और
अच्छा।
फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट का जो एलिफेंट्स है वो तो पेट्रोलिंग के लिए उनको चाहिए ही चाहिए, क्योंकि हर जगह पे गाड़ी नहीं जा पाता है। यहाँ जो
पैदल भी नहीं जा पाते,
पैदल भी
तो
नहीं
आपको ये
जा
लगता है कि जो ह्यूमन उसके ऊपर बैठते हैं उससे मतलब उसका कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, इतना कोई एक्सप्लॉयटेशन नहीं होता है?
मैं तो बोलूंगा कि अभी के लिए, फिलहाल के लिए तो इतना
है।
तो ठीक ही है, लेकिन और तो वाइल्ड से तो अभी पकड़ा नहीं जाता है।
अच्छा,
जो पहले ही पकड़ा हुआ है, जो वो ब्रीड करता है, उसी से
चल
रहे हैं। अभी तो वाइल्ड से पकड़ने का अलाउ कहीं पे भी नहीं है।
अच्छा अच्छा, थैंक यू। मुझे ये बात मुझे अंदर से ये प्रॉब्लमेटिक लगता था कि हम एलिफेंट के ऊपर बैठ के एलिफेंट को देखने जा रहे हैं, कैसे लग रहा है, मतलब ना,
क्योंकि अगर उनका वो थोड़ा टूरिज्म में काम नहीं लगाएगा तो उनका मालिक लोग उनको बहुत और हार्ड वर्क में लगा देगा।
हाँ,
तो इससे तो अच्छा है कि वो थोड़ा मॉर्निंग में 1-2 सिर्फ एलिफेंट राइड करके वो पूरा दिन के लिए उसको छोड़ दिया जाता है।
अच्छा।
और अभी जो एलिफेंट जो है ना, उसको जंगल में छोड़ दिया जाए तब भी वो रहेगा नहीं।
उसका तो टेम्ड हो गया है ना, डोमेस्टिकेटेड जैसा हो गया है, ये चेंज हो गया, वो सरवाइव नहीं कर पाएगा प्रॉपर्ली।
इसलिए छोड़ भी नहीं देते ना। जो हम लोग को जो हाथी बूढ़ा हो जाते हैं,
हाँ जी,
उसको कुछ काम में नहीं लगाते, इसी छोड़ के रखते हैं। बस सिर्फ खाने के टाइम में इसको ले आते थे, नहा के धोआ के ना खिला दो बस।
Sight of the first water body inside the national park told me that we were now entering the core region. The forest is marked by 41% tall grass, 29% open jungle, 11% short grass, and the rest is covered with rivers and the water bodies. There are more than 250 seasonal water bodies in the park, including the river Dafoli. I knew that in early morning in front of a wetland there's possibility of birding, and so I kept my cameras ready. When I was showing you on screen about the best time to visit, if you noticed, February seemingly is the overlapping month where there's increased possibility of spotting megaspecies, along with enjoying some birding prospect in a pleasantly cold weather. Hence, I chose this time for my tryst with Kaziranga.
हाँ देखा मैंने, ये बर्ड मैंने दिब्रू सुखी में बहुत देखा। और रूडी ये बोलता है ना, रूडी सिल्डक,
ये लद्दाख से आते हैं।
लद्दाख से आते हैं।
So I met someone who can fly at elevations 8 times higher than the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa. Ruddy-shelled duck can put the idiom sitting duck to shame. Researchers have discovered that this tough species of duck can fly at altitudes of up to 22,000 feet, coping with low oxygen levels in Himalaya and this is the first evidence of extreme high altitude flying in a duck. Strictly speaking, radicel ducks aren't really ducks but duck-like waterfowls. They share characteristics of both ducks and geese.
but ये regular white breasted है.
White breasted.
He's about to hunt. Look at the focus.
Early morning kingfishers are particularly active. They are phenomenal hunters with varied diets like insects, crustaceans, frogs, lizards, spiders, worms, freshwater streams, tadpoles, and of course, fish. While I was looking at an Indian cormorant, Mr. Pallab brought my attention to another species of kingfisher family, whose average family size of 6 can hunt and eat up to 100 fish a day. Stork-billed kingfisher also hunts rodents and young birds during resource scarcity. They are so territorial that they can easily chase away eagles and other large predators. If you see a kingfisher on its perch, watch it closely. Once it has spotted its prey, a kingfisher will bob its head up and down to gauge the position of the fish. They bob their head from a perched position before diving to accurately estimate depth of the fish. This is how you know that the bird means business. Three species of kingfishers standing at the same spot. Typically, I see them in most safaris and even otherwise, but never saw them before from the same place. Can't believe my luck. I knew the carnival has started. When I was busy spotting birds, Mr. Pallab suddenly told me that he saw an one-horned rhino far away through his binocular on the other side of the bank.
मुझे दिखाई नहीं दे रहा.
I looked at the direction and could only spot a herd of swamp deer and a squadron of pelicans gliding on water. One snakebird was resting on the edge, but no rhino. He already told me that the rhinoceros was at a great distance, so wouldn't offer a decent photograph or footage in foggy morning. But even while I was looking through the lens under full zoom, I struggled to find the animal initially. And then,
Here, Rhino दिखा मुझे.
the first sighting was quite underwhelming, that too through my lens. I haven't seen the animal in naked eye yet. The swamp deer were far too. But since this is the first rhino I spotted in Kaziranga, it's special and I wanted to document. An open-bill stork attracted my attention, and I decided to rather record those whom I could truly observe. Unlike other birds, storks do not have a fully developed syrinx or vocal box. Although the tall bird is generally viewed as silent, some stork species make grunt and hissing noises and loudly clatter their bills. Whether you hear them coming or not, you will definitely see a stork if it flies overhead. Certain stork species have wings that extend over 8 feet long. When it stretches its great wings, the marabou stork of sub-Saharan Africa can cover over 10 feet. That's almost twice the size of a black rhinoceros in Africa, which stands just a little over 5 feet. The lesser whistling duck is predominantly a nocturnal feeder, so instead of hunting, the adults alongside chicks were engrossed in pruning. They were combing their feathers so vigorously because feathers need constant care to keep them waterproof, and so birds can spend hours a day maintaining them by pruning. But otherwise looks like it's breakfast time for most of them though. By the way, always finish your breakfast early before coming for morning safari and carry mineral water. All standard resorts near national parks offer you wake-up call and early breakfast. Unlike some central Indian parks, there's no designated zone to eat inside the forest here, and it's not permissible to carry eatables. A medium-sized heron, this species is intermediate in size between the great egret and smaller white egrets like the little egret and cattle egret, hence the name. Another bird that stalks its prey methodically in shallow or fresh water, including flooded fields. Ah, that's quick. Must be an insect.
पेलिकन भी है, स्पॉटबिल पेलिकन।
कहाँ पे?
ये पिंक स्पाइडर फ्लावर।
हाँ, पिंक स्पाइडर फ्लावर। और साथ में ये एक राइनो का डंग है, डंग पाइल जो दिख रहे हैं ना,
ये राइनो का डंग पाइल। अच्छा।
तो राइनो हमेशा एक ही जगह पे आता है और वहाँ वो पोटी करता है।
तो स्कैट क्या सिर्फ टाइगर का बोलता है क्या?
स्केच को, हाँ,
अच्छा।
टाइगर को।
राइनो एक ही जगह आके पोटी करता है, मतलब वो टेरिटरी मार्क करता है।
टेरिटरी मार्क करता है।
This purple pink flowering shrub, commonly known as pink queen or grandfather's whiskers, is originally from the tropics of South America, introduced as an invasive species in Kaziranga. Greater one-horned rhinos include it in their diet and spread it in their dung piles, which are known as middens. The dung middens not only spread a wide variety of seeds across the landscape, but also fertilize and nurture vegetation that other herbivores, including elephants, feast on. One-horned rhinos love to eat it, and seeds are passed on through their feces, creating a curiously fascinating landscape. Piles of fetid dung, encircled by powdery pink blossoms, creating more spider flower in those spots. That's why loosely it is believed that rhino excretia turns into these beautiful flowers in a landscape where these animals enjoy godly status. A greater one-horned rhinoceros defecates in the same spot for at least 3 months and uses it to mark its territory and communicate with other rhinos. Some piles or dung middens can be almost 3 meters wide. Odors from it provide crucial information to other rhinos, including age and sex of rhinos in the territory and whether females are ready to mate. That's why when the greater one-horned rhinos was first introduced into Assam's Manas National Park as a part of strategic relocation program, a truckload of dung was also shipped there, so the landscape would not seem alien to the relocated rhinos. Amidst a dreamscape surrounded by vivid bloom of flame of the forest, commonly known as palash tree, suddenly I felt that I heard some disturbance ahead, perhaps sound of a broken branch. Felt because I didn't really see anything or it didn't register properly whether I even heard something or not. So I rushed others. And just like that, we were now standing in front of the second largest living land mammal, next in size to their African counterparts.
Keep quiet.
The stare was chilly, indefatigable, standstill, stiff as twigs, with a seeming hint of disbelief and rebuke. He was directly looking at our jeep.
Please keep quiet.
Three jeeps joined in the back meanwhile after seeing us waiting there, and visitors were making a lot of noise and excitement and forward to get the right angle for photography. Inexperienced visitors in wild have a tendency to only regard the carnivores, but if they think of him only as gentle giant, they have no idea what he is capable of doing. Elephants that we mostly get to see near temples, training camps, processions, safari joyrides, and so on are categorically tamed to an extent till they are mentally broken. In wild, they are powerful enough to deliver a lethal blow from one strike, and some 500 people are killed by elephant attacks each year.
बड़ा टास्क होगा, मतलब ऐसा मोटा होगा, उसका उम्र उतना ज्यादा होगा। लंबाई से आपको पता नहीं चलता है।
अच्छा,
मोटा
थिकनेस से।
मोटा, हाँ, थिकनेस से। और उसका कलर जितना वो बूढ़ा होता जाएगा, मतलब ओल्ड होता जाएगा, उतना उसका कलर जो है गोल्डन की तरफ होता जाएगा, ब्राउन की तरफ होता जाएगा, तभी इसका।
Experts estimate that India has only about 1,200 tuskers left. Among Asiatic elephants, only males have long tusks and are therefore known as tuskers. Wrapped in enamel, ivory tusks are actually massive teeth that protrude well beyond the mouths of elephants and provide them with multi-purpose evolutionary advantage like lifting objects, digging, gathering food, defense, and so on. Both male and female African elephants have tusks, but many Asian male elephants do not have tusks and are called makhnas. Many female Asian elephants have tushes, which are small and comparatively brittle. Poachers kill about 20,000 elephants every single year for their tusks, which are then traded illegally in the international market to eventually end up as ivory trinkets. Elephants are nomadic animals. Sadly, the forests they once knew are now tea gardens and paddy fields, or submerged by dams or devastated by mines. If they return to such enclosed lands, in retaliation, some people poison, electrocute, or even blow them up by placing crude bombs in delicacies like jackfruit. They are highly social animals with incredible memories and capable of displaying very deep emotions from a complex behavioral spectrum. But I wasn't prepared for what he did next. He shook his body a bit and lifted his trunk to embrace the tree. I felt in that moment that he was telling us to save tree, to save him and his habitat. I knew that I was projecting my emotions even then, and he was perhaps obtaining chemical information about other elephants with his trunk tips by hugging the tree or trying to get nutrition from the bark. But his presence and stare, sculpted in stillness, amidst grinning partners and Palash's red, felt exceptional instead of habitual. Also, elephants use their multi-purpose trunk like this to greet old friends, to comfort young cubs with touching and stroking. It's like us holding hands. Could he be missing someone? Every elephant is distinct. I named him Kazuvat, an amalgamation between Kaziranga and Indra's Airavata. Kaziranga National Park and the landscape surrounding it arguably holds the most important population of elephants in Northeast India. Even though I understand Mr. Pallav's rationale and even agree with him in this specific scenario, it's just too painful to witness how these amazing giants are methodically broken for commercial interest. I have seen that trauma. That's why I welcome this recent step of Uttarakhand government, as part of which elephant safari, including any commercial use, is permanently banned in Jim Corbett and Rajaji Tiger Reserve. When I was engrossed in birding, most of the jeeps have crossed us and went where we are going now. Other than professional photographers and hobbyist birders, I have noticed that most visitors in any Indian forest is predominantly interested to spot megafauna. Understandably so. Big animals often create such overwhelming effect. But then again, they ironically missed spotting any elephant in the process and didn't see what they were chasing either. Not that we have forgotten about it.
It's beautiful light. This light में अगर tiger दिखे, wow.
Mr. Pallab told me that I let you so far explore as you wanted, but now we should move towards Daflang Tower. Basically, he meant that he will not stop now just because I would like to do some landscape photography or observe a bird. I totally relied on his judgment by that time, and so we didn't stop anywhere before reaching Daflang. What a strange name of the watchtower, I thought. Later, I learned that Dafla is a Tibeto-Burman language spoken in northeastern India and adjacent regions of western Burma, spoken by an independent primitive tribe called Dafla. Possibly the name came from there. But I didn't understand the real significance of the place yet. Nobody would perhaps believe looking at me that it was not even 48 hours when I couldn't stand straight in Dibrugarh, being afflicted with hypothermia and fever after visiting Dibru-Sukhiya National Park in penetrating cold. I reached Kaziranga yesterday afternoon with fumbling hands and stumbling steps. With necessary evils like antibiotics and painkillers at rescue, the forest made me forget about any physical discomfort. I heard a range of comments from already present visitors of other jeeps upon reaching the top. No tiger, nothing. यहाँ शो स्टॉपर टाइगर नहीं राइनो है. अरे यार मेरा हॉर्नबिल मिस हो गया एलिफेंट के चक्कर में. Rhinos will be sleeping now, it's common sense. एकदम शांत रहो सब, अभी शेर निकलेगा. Look some pelicans over there. वाइल्ड लाइफ तो कुछ दिखता नहीं कहीं पे, एक सेल्फी ले लेता हूँ. Daflang Tower felt like Kaziranga's small confluence of Homo sapiens. And just like elephants, here too every member was distinct. While we were attempting to spot animals from the top, I wondered whether those roaming at the bottom and flying at the top already knew where we were. Something inside me told that they did. In that case, were they equally curious to spot us too, so that they could evade us even better? I wondered. Most animals in wild are not particularly eager to come across humans. Can't blame. Watchtowers are a great place to scan a vast area of the forest and critical to the management of any forest area, primarily to detect fires, trespassing, poaching, as well as study the movement of animals within the forest corridor. Even though most jeeps have started living as guides exchanged information among themselves about the latest position of a rhino carcass, obviously to track the tiger who killed the rhino last night, Mr. Pallav had a different idea.
क्या हिल
कार्बी आंगलोंग हिल
कार्बी आंगलोंग It was exactly 1 minute past 9 when we spotted those goose, and he told me, let's spend some more time here. I was happy to feel the fresh green air. I have been to many such safaris where we didn't spot anything for hours together except a bird or two. So in comparison, the first morning safari was already quite remarkable and action-packed. But then perhaps I was underestimating Mother Nature's benevolence.
डायरेक्ट उस पर नहीं देखे थे काला कुछ समान है कैमरे से देखिए.
When we first saw that kala kuch, or something black as mentioned by Mr. Manik, we got down. Sorry, we almost ran. And we waited for the indiscernible to come out from the bushes for a better look. The pond heron too was seemingly waiting with us in anticipation. was absolutely mesmerized and awestruck when the guide whispered, "A female came out too at the other end of the bank." What we just witnessed right now is what made Kaziranga a globally famous national park, and India's conservation scene suddenly became the hot topic for ecologists all over. In the next episode, which will capture the afternoon safari experience of the same day, I will tell you in detail about how Kaziranga bounced back from the near extinct one-horned rhinos in the world at the turn of the 20th century to harboring the single largest population of this species, considered as Asia's biggest wildlife conservation success story. While their population improved from endangered to vulnerable in 2008, the species still remains under significant threat from poaching for its horn and habitat loss. And then, rhinos got a top predator to deal with. In nature, the predator is a free animal which either ambushes or stalks to hunt unselectively or selectively from its standard prey base. A large carnivore like the tiger prefers, prima facie, an economical prey of larger size instead of targeting smaller mammals. Though rhinos are mighty, a single adult tiger can kill a rhino, especially the cubs. In Corbett, there have been incidents where even elephants have been killed by tigers. But such shifting of the target species for predation is possible only under favorable situations, as rhinos, the third largest terrestrial animal after African and Asiatic elephants, are not remotely easy or standard prey for tigers. The kind of nature documentaries that you get to see in various channels typically involve a large team of experts, far more superior equipments in terms of arrangements, usually a permit to shoot for the whole day, and at times also entry into specially protected areas which are not accessible by regular tourists, and kind of pockets that we never get to see. Also, they have the luxury of time. Starting from documentation inside the forest to research, scripting, editing. Here, everything has been done by me single-handedly as a regular wildlife visitor in 6 jeep safaris. So in a way, this is my very own traveler's wildlife documentary, and I'm extremely happy and excited about it. If you like this work and if you find my content valuable, and even if you never go to Kaziranga, but if it increases your interest in the natural world, do share this video in your social circle and support my channel, and hit the like button, subscribe to Out of the Den if you haven't yet, and also please write your thoughts in your comment section, but most importantly, join in this wild ride with me. When our jeep was moving towards a fresh rhino carcass, I wondered what kind of power a tiger must possess to take down a rhino, as rhinoceros skin withstands average stresses and strains of 170 megapascal and 0.7 respectively before yielding. In fact, the thickest part of the skin may stop some bullet shots from significant distance from a regular rifle or pistol. Since most jeeps were doing rounds from Daflang Tower to the location of rhino carcass from early morning in the fervor of coming across a tiger who must return at the spot for food, I asked my guide, "Do you know which tiger this is?" He half smiled. A quick bright twinkle in his face didn't miss my notice. He replied, "I was scanning for her throughout, even before we reached the tower. You know, This bold female gives sleepless nights to nearby villages. I named her Dafoli, as Daflang Tower and adjacent area is her territory. I was standing at the heartland of a ferocious tigress, and I didn't even know it. বাঘ কেন বাঘের মামাও আসবে না? I also thought loudly. If I were a tiger, I wouldn't have come remotely near to this place after hearing this voice. While guides from different jeeps were busy, faintly exchanging latest information about whether anyone has spotted pugmark or not, any movement at all happened or not since morning, by virtue of knowing the language, I realized that a group of visitors were expressing their emotions rather loudly about their preferred angle for a group photo. The sound of engine on designated tracks can't be helped, and to some extent, animals adapted with that. But loud human voice can frighten large and medium-sized carnivores, and otherwise disturb the wildlife sharing the landscape. When wildlife hear us, even top predators adopt prey behavior. Prey animals typically are fearful of predator vocalizations, and they will change their behavior due to this fear. Few years ago, an experiment took place in the Santa Cruz Mountains of Central California, where the largest native carnivore is the mountain lion. For 5 weeks, researchers played intermittent amplified recordings of people talking, and using GPS collars and camera traps, it was evident that when mountain lions heard human voices, they changed their usual paths, decreased their average speed by 34%, and kept far away from the human voice. Because at the end of the day, from animals' perspective, humans are an apex predator. Also, a tiger's sense of hearing is the most acute of all its senses. However, Mr. Pallab told me, "Don't worry, she's different. She owns this place. If she has to come out, she will. It's one of her favorite areas for movement, and Dafoli doesn't care for any human presence." And I can actually smell the rhino, the dead body smell. I realized the ingrained prejudice in my mind permeating to wildlife too. Since the animal hunted down a rhino, I automatically assumed it must be a male. Another reason for that assumption is males are more aggressive and protective toward their territories than the female tigers. However, females are typically larger than their male counterparts, more patient and stealthy hunters. Mr. Pallab told me that our jeep would wait in this spot for the rest of the bonding safari. My idea was to wait here, say, for 40 minutes or so and explore other possibilities if no movement were noticed, because not that Dafoli is the only one around here. Also, personally, I am keen to experience diverse hues, landscape, and wildlife when I visit a forest. That's why, even while waiting for Dafoli, I kept an eye for birding. Moreover, not only deer and langurs, but birds also got alarm calls, and with knowledge and experience, one can vaguely guess where the predator might be moving. There are 134 other tigers in Kaziranga, and this zone has the highest density. So why only fix it on her? I asked inquisitively. He sighed and took out his mobile. Then he showed me a few photographs and one video of Dafoli, which he recorded here a few months ago. I didn't ask anything after that, and I haven't seen anything like that. Drop dead gorgeous. After an hour, only 4 jeeps were still waiting, including us. All visitors were made to stand or sit in reverence and anticipation. Such is the aura of a Royal Bengal tigress. Our guide banked on possibility of Dafoli's movement towards the half-eaten carcass lying at our left inside the grassland, and rightly so. Nothing attracts tigers more in a forest than a rhino carcass. If at all any action happens, it will happen here, he chuckled. I love such confidence in safari guides. Our jeep was standing fast, so if she happened to cross, we would get unobstructed view. But other than a fleeting warning posed by a deer herd, even with heightened sensory perceptions, nothing was heard or seen after that. There was this one time when I perhaps started hallucinating after focusing all energy in one direction for long. I think she is sleeping somewhere after last night's heavy meal, I whispered afterwards. After waiting a little over 2 hours there, Mr. Pallab shook his head and told me something to this effect. She is testing our patience. You have already seen 2 big mammals, including Rhino, closely in your very first safari. Perhaps sighting tiger would be too good to be true. I realized it was time for us to return. Even though I was very satisfied with my first outing, embracing the forest with its splendor and gore, I don't believe in too good to be true or too bad to be false. In life, even though we tend to doubt and question them both, sometimes miracles do happen and sometimes massacre strikes. And here, while the miracle didn't happen with us, the latter happened with the rhino, Kaziranga's pride. And I returned being struck by the age-old dilemma, somebody's matter of life and death being the fodder of my vacation. But I know there is no vacuum in natural ecosystems. Every vacuum created by the loss of an animal is soon replaced by other natural entities from the neighborhood. And such is the nature of the beast. And to quote Kipling, this is the law of the jungle, as old and as true as the sky. And the wolf that shall keep it may prosper, but the wolf that shall break, it must die. But as for Dafoli, something inside me said, it's just the beginning of our hide and seek.